What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Cleveland Guardians home opener post-game show. Happy home opener day and Eclipse Day. I am Kevin Suds. With me, with the Eclipse glasses on, is Derek Dimmitt. How you doing, Derek?
Oh, pretty good. I think I'm gonna repurpose this with our friends on the south side of Chicago because if they have to watch the White Sox all year, they may need these Eclipse glasses.
I see a lot of people putting them up for sale now
Yeah.
on Marketplace and eBay. So you might be able to get something
Hey,
for them.
people will buy anything.
Yes, they will. All right, so the Guardians just completed a 4-0 home opening win over the Chicago White Sox. Emmanuel Clase picking up the save, striking out the final batter. What more can you say? Tristan McKenzie, a lot of people were nervous after that first start out in Seattle. And he was barely touching 90 miles per hour, got roughed up a bit. Today, he went 5 2/3, gave up 3 hits, had 4 walks, 2 strikeouts, and he topped out at I think it was 93.4 miles per hour. So definitely a big improvement on the velocity, which is definitely a good thing to see.
Yeah, definitely. He's had some injury issues, and we'll talk about those for this year in a little bit. But yeah, good to see that velocity come back. And his frame has always kind of troubled a lot of people. The strain on an arm, and when I think at the start of the game, Hammy said that he's listed at like 165 or whatever, but he's 6'5" or whatever. Like that's a there's nothing to him. I I saw a tweet. I think it was during spring training. It was like some people skip leg day, and Tristan McKenzie's never even heard of leg day. So,
Well, there's a reason he's nicknamed Sticks.
right? Yeah, but yeah, a great home opener. Hammy said it at the start of the broadcast. When was the last time that a Guardians home opener? Temperatures in the 60s, 70s if you got further away from the lake, but Sunsplash Field, great weather. Um, yeah, and then the team came out and did what they had to do to get a victory. I know the first two runs were kind of unconventional, but then our good old buddy Brian Shaw, home run pitch to Jose Ramirez, and like you text me as soon as it happens and said, there's the Brian Shaw we know and love.
Yeah, he threw that good old hanging slider to Jose, and he put it out the right field. And not to take anything away from Brian Shaw, when we first acquired him, he was a workhorse in that bullpen. Had a great couple of
Right,
years. Was one of the
definitely.
top relievers in the American League, but Tito just he ran that arm out of gas real quick.
Yeah,
It seemed like
his
he's throwing him in just about every game.
right, and it wasn't just Brian Shaw. There's quite a few that Tito kind of ran into the ground, but the
But give him credit,
yeah,
36 years old, and he's still got a job. So,
yeah, yep,
but yeah, not really a hitting clinic today. Like you said, besides the Jose home run, the first run on an error, and then a hit by pitch, Andres Jimenez with the bases loaded. But they got the job done, 4-0. That's pretty much what it's been the last 3 games or so. After taking 3 or 4 from Oakland, and then 2 out of 3 in Seattle, the bats were really going. The last 3 games, the 2 in Minnesota and this one today, it's been more about the pitching. And unfortunately, we have to talk about it. A big loss that they incurred with the news about Shane Bieber, which really surprised everybody because he looked great in his first 2 starts, 12 innings, no runs allowed, 20 strikeouts. He looked like the Shane Bieber of old. And the news came out that he has to have Tommy John surgery and he's going to miss the entire season, unfortunately. But he even talked in his press conference. He was getting pretty choked up, trying to fight back the tears. But he even said he felt like his old self again. He fell in love with pitching again, and he felt like he was going to have a big year. So it was a real gut punch for him, unfortunately.
yeah. That quote about falling in love with pitching again, definitely showed a human side that sometimes we don't see with professional athletes. They like to give off this facade of being, superhuman, and he kind of laid it out there, and they mentioned on the Valley Sports broadcast that there is that elephant in the room of has Shane Bieber thrown his last pitch as a Cleveland Guardian and previously an Indian, but there's a lot to be determined with his rehab. Hopefully, maybe they can work something out, kind of bridge him over past this year, maybe a 1 or 2 year contract based on what comes of his rehab. Um, but yeah, it'd be great to see him kind of come back as a Guardian. So I mean, his two outings this year were spectacular. Not the old Bieber that could just put people away, give you 6 or 7 innings of shutout or 1 run ball, and then Saturday morning you're we were both driving to cover. I covered the softball game. You were covering a high school baseball game, and I texted you that I got a phone call from someone with the Bieber news, and you're like, "What are you talking about?" I thought Justin Bieber released a new album or something, but because it
I was
came out
hoping
of
it was a
nowhere.
joke.
Yeah, yeah, a late April Fool's, but
Right.
no, it was definitely shocking and sad to hear, but uh, wish the best for Shane's recovery, and it's good to see that the team hasn't used that as a crutch and kind of woe is me, the season's lost, even though it's 10 now 11 games into the season. And I'm sure we'll talk about it as this show goes on, but I've been impressed with Stephen Vogt, like a rookie manager, and this is a young team, so that may help. But even the way that he has processed this loss of Bieber and kind of kept the ball rolling, and he's got some veterans on his staff, Sandy Alomar, Carl Willis, among others, that he's probably leaning on, to make sure that this isn't something that sidetracks the season.
Yeah. And with the Bieber thing, I think he feels he owes a lot to this organization. And I think both sides will, like you said, depending on how his rehab goes, we'll try to work out something, maybe like you said, a 1 or 2 year deal going forward. It's the thing with Tommy John now. I mean, back in the day, you you have to have Tommy John surgery. It's pretty much a death sentence for a pitcher. But now it's so common. It's kind of weird to say, but I mean, guys come back. A lot of them guys come back even stronger after the surgery. So we'll see where that goes. But yeah, I agree with you on Stephen Vogt. He had a couple hiccups in the first two series, which, like you said, rookie manager. It's going to be expected. He's going to make mistakes. He's learning on the job pretty much. But he is surrounded by a veteran staff who does will help him. I like what he's done with the roster construction and the moves he's made, working the pitching staff. I think I give him an A so far this season.
Yeah, definitely not just with the starters, but the way the bullpen has performed. Saw it this afternoon or this evening rather with Gaddis and then Cade Smith and then slamming the door with Class A. Um, when we got the news about uh, Trevor Stephan, thinking, oh man, that's a seventh or eighth inning role that is now open. And yeah, we're only a week or two into the season, but it looks like we got some guys that are willing to step up and fill that role. And if you're watching and you want to chime in on anything we're talking about or anything that's on your mind following the Cleveland Guardians home opener or the start of the season, please comment on Facebook, send us a tweet, comment on YouTube. We'll be glad to kind of rope you into our little chat here. But yeah, so far so good. They're eight or what, 8-2 now?
8-2.
Yeah, because of the rain out on Sunday. And I know on Bally's they kind of talked about, you know, almost felt like there was a little bit of surprise when Class A was up in the bottom of the eighth with a 4 run lead. But had the rain out on Sunday, have an off day scheduled for Thursday before the Yankees come in. So it's early enough in the season. You don't want rust to build up. So yeah, it's good to get him out there, get some game action, and yeah, he did what Emmanuel Class A does. He did have a runner on, so it's not the best thing, but still, he was able to buckle down and get him out, and yeah, that's a great start to the season. And I, Guardians fever is kind of taking over, and the way the Cavs finished their West Coast trip here with the women's college basketball Final Four taking place at Rocket Mortgage, uh, kind of has opened the door for the Guardians to kind of swoop in and grab fans' attention.
It's funny that you mentioned that with the Guardians kind of overshadowing the Cavs with their struggles, because a good friend of Believe Land, Ed in Columbus, put out a nice tweet with the original Eclipse, and I'll put that up on the screen now. Whoops.
Technical
Yeah, there we go.
difficulties.
There we go. So the Guardians eclipsing the Cavs, which I think is is real right
Yes.
now.
Yes, definitely, definitely. Yeah. Hopefully the Cavs can uh, right the ship here as we end the season on Sunday. They got 3 home games. Need all 3 of them if they want to have any shot at home field, or rather home court advantage. Like you said, there's a possibility that they could fall and need to go into the play-in tournament just to make the playoffs. So, but I don't want to take Joey Schneider's thunder. That's you and Joey's department. We're here to discuss Cleveland Guardians after their home opening win 4-0 this evening, and a great start to the home portion of the Guardian schedule.
Yeah, and you mentioned the bullpen. That was a concern for a lot of people coming in, especially with the Stephen injury. But you mentioned the younger guys like Cade Smith, who's just been lights out, and he's a guy that I've followed throughout the system. That I've been pretty excited about, and glad he's here. And he's got nasty stuff. Upper 90s fastball. It seems like everybody now coming out of the bullpen, unless you're Eli Morgan, Nick Sandlin, are throwing upper 90s. But him, Hunter Gaddis, I know they talked about on the broadcast. Andre Knott talked about talking to him about his new bullpen role, and he said, I love it. I can come in and I can let it fly, with my fastball and my slider. And he hit 99 today on one of his pitches. So that's, when he was starting, he was sitting around 94, 95. Like he said, he had to kind of rein it in a little bit, and so he could have some longevity. But he loves that new role coming in, letting it fly for one inning. Tyler Beatty, off-season pickup has been outstanding. Tim Herron, the young lefty. A lot of these guys, Nick Sandlin. I know Scott Barlow got off to a rough start in that first outing, but he's settled down. He's looked really good in his last couple outings. So yeah, the bullpen's been very impressive, and you got Class A doing his thing at the back end.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about Gaddis before we went live, and I mentioned Jabba Chamberlain, someone that kind of came up with the Yankees as a starter and kind of fizzled out as a starter. They moved him to a back end of the bullpen where he could do just like you said, Hunter Gaddis is doing, just letting it fly. You're only going to face these guys one time, so you don't have to, hide your stuff. You can just rock and fire, and some guys that's all it takes. It's Hollywood, but that was Rick Wild thing Vaughn, struggled
Yeah,
as a starter, moved into the closer's role, and boom. But yeah, and the offense is doing just enough. Defense has been solid as expected with who they are playing in the field right now. But Stephen Kwan, 3 hits this afternoon. I saw on the bottom line on Valley Sports that he's tied for first and hits for the American League. I don't know if that was updated throughout the game. He may lead the league now. Um, Josh Naylor multi-hit ball game this afternoon. David Fry struggled, but coming in, he was banging 455, I think. He had that big 3-run home run over the weekend in Minnesota. And if you had David Fry as the home opener batting third, I don't even think Stephen Vogt could have dreamed that up this spring. But hey, sometimes you just gotta throw things out there and hope they work. Jose batting out of the 2 hole, smacked that uh, 2-run home run to really kind of put the White Sox to bed. They've definitely struggled so far this season, and it's kind of surprising to see a bullpen game in the 10th or 11th game of the season. Just kind of, that seems like something that you would more typically see once you get into May, into June, maybe an injury or two. But yeah, it looks like it might be a long summer in the south side of Chicago, and they're dealing with injuries as well to start their season.
Yeah, we definitely lucked out with their two big middle of the order sluggers and Eloy Jimenez and Luis Robert both hitting a DL or IL before the series started. So that's two huge bats they're missing out of their lineup. And yeah, I think it's going to be a rough season for them. But looking at the Bieber injury now, obviously you have to replace him in the rotation. Uh, you know, Ideally, you want Tristan McKenzie to now step up and be that ace because that's something, we've looked at him for his projection at this point in his career, becoming that ace and, getting over the elbow injury and, keep building on what he did today. We've seen the increase, 2 miles per hour increase in velocity, just keep building and, really going to rely on him. Obviously Logan Allen and Tanner Bybee have been solid so far this year. Logan Allen goes for win number 3 tomorrow. Carlos Carrasco, after a rough first outing, didn't look too bad his last outing against Minnesota. So, he's all of a sudden become pretty important now as well. But for that 5th spot, I don't want to see him move Gaddis. We've already talked about how comfortable he is now in his bullpen role. Same with Beatty. He's kind of settled into that bullpen spot. He's been a starter in the past. I think the one guy I'm looking at is Xavier Curry, who just made his rehab start the other night, struck out 7 batters in 2 2/3 with Columbus. I know he pitched pretty well to the bullpen last year, but I think he may get the first shot at that 5th spot. And there's also Ben Lively, who they picked up, free agent from the Reds. Kind of struggled with the Reds last year, but has pitched pretty well so far down at Columbus. He's another guy that could get a shot. This is where, if Daniel Espino was healthy, you would probably see him. And, obviously he's going to miss his 2nd straight season, which is rough because the kid probably has the best arm in the organization. And, hopefully we get to see him at some point, but, starting to give you Adam Miller vibes a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Before the game, in the manager's minute or whatever they call it, Hammy did bring up that need for a 5th starter with Stephen Vogt, and he did mention Curry and Lively. Both pitched around 50 pitches, I think he said, in their last rehab outing, hoping to get them out there at least one more time each to get near that 70, 75 pitch count where they can feel comfortable with bringing one of them up to take that 5th spot. But it definitely seems like he'll be one or the other, whether it's Curry or Lively. But with the unscheduled off day yesterday, with the scheduled off day Thursday, they can kind of maneuver the starting rotation and probably won't need another starter until early next week, weather depending. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how that plays out. But yes, you mentioned it. Cookie Carrasco was kind of brought in kind of as that kind of just hallmark moment, for lack of a better term, and now he's going to be a big part of this rotation for the foreseeable future for this season with the loss of Bieber and with Gavin Williams still out in Arizona at extended spring training. Hopefully Cookie can stay healthy. Excited to see his first start in Cleveland. Just the emotions not only for him, for the teammates that played with him when he was here before, but for the fans. Definitely a fan favorite when he was here before. Even when he went to New York in that trade with Lindor, um, there was still a soft spot for Carrasco here in Cleveland. So yeah, definitely excited to see him pitch his first game in Cleveland. Not sure exactly if it'll be this series or maybe the New York series. Probably see how Stephen Vogt and Carl Willis kind of maneuver the rotation here the rest of this week. But yeah, sounds like it'll be Curry or Lively. Doesn't sound like either one kind of has an upper hand as it stands right now. Um, but yeah, any update from James? I know he was at the game. We were hoping to get some reaction from him, probably on his way to the car.
Well, he said his phone was on about 30%, so he didn't think he was going to be able to make it. He was going to try, but
Yeah, too much taking video of the eclipse
yeah.
from upper right field where he was for the eclipse. But I saw the video, saw the pictures, and it was an awesome thing to witness. And if you got to witness it inside the ballpark, that makes it even better. I think they said the next time that the Cleveland area will have a total eclipse is like 24, 44 or something like that. So we'll all be we won't be here, and hopefully
No.
by then the Guardians have a couple Series titles under their belt.
I would hope so. But yeah, cool moment during the eclipse. Said Brian Shaw actually came over and gave Carrasco a big hug and told him how happy he was to see him, back in Cleveland where he belongs. So, that was a pretty cool, heartwarming moment from a couple, former teammates and friends. All right, so pitching matchups. Logan Allen and Tanner Bybee are scheduled to pitch the final two games against Chicago. So, kind of, without overlooking the Chicago series, kind of what's next after that, because there's a big 7 games coming up. The New York Yankees, who are right now tied with the Guardians and the Pittsburgh Pirates for the the top record in Major League Baseball right now. So props to Paul on as his Pirates predictions so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be a tough series. Yankees are playing really well. And they're 6-1 on the road, so they're playing really well away from Yankee Stadium. And then 4 games in Boston, where they're kind of the surprise right now, one of the surprise teams. They're one of the top pitching staffs in the league, which has been a surprise. They're 7-3, only a game behind New York, so
Right.
that'll be a big test in those 7 games, because you're probably going to see Carrasco and probably whoever that 5th starter is,
Right.
pitch in one of those games. And Gavin Williams is a couple weeks away, so he's on the horizon, so it'll be good to get him back as well. But then at least after those 7 games, we got the A's coming in, so that's always a good cure for a slump if you happen to be in one at the time.
Right. Yeah. And I think I told you that I just feel for those players and definitely the fans with that situation in Oakland right now. It was announced, I think, after the Guardians left, that they'll be playing the next couple seasons in Sacramento, but they aren't going to put a location on their team name. They're just going to go by the A's. So that's some Washington football stuff going on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a big week. And like you said, you don't want to overlook the White Sox. You don't want to just say, "Oh, we beat them for nothing. They're off to their worst start in franchise history." You don't want to look past them, as easy as it can be, knowing that you have the Bronx Bombers coming to town over the weekend, and then you head to Boston. And I'm pretty sure Monday is Patriots Day, so that's probably like a 11 o'clock start or something for Cleveland at Boston.
Yeah, it should
Maybe.
be a day game. I'll look here real
Yeah.
quick. Bear with me a second.
Oh, you're good.
That is 11:10 a.m. start.
Right. So that's after, traveling on Sunday. Granted, Sunday's a day game, but still to travel get in and have to get up and play an 11 o'clock game like you're back in double A for an education day or whatever will be a little different, something, but that'll be a fun experience for the team and hopefully, kind of build some, they started on the road, but it seems like with young teams, those road trips are kind of where the bonding kind of happens. And like you said, we do have a few new faces picked up from free agency or trade on the roster. A lot of familiar faces, however, but it's good to build that camaraderie at the start of the season, so that way when things get rough in July, August, in those dog days of the season, you can kind of rely on your brother standing next to you. And yeah, it's been a great start to the season. Outside of the Bieber injury, I don't think there's been anything that's happened that, as a Guardians fan, you wouldn't have signed up for, at the start of spring training. But it's a long season. Still got 150 or so to go. But uh, yeah, everything that you could hope for has happened, I think, thus far.
Yeah, couldn't ask for a better start. 8-2. I would have, never imagined. I was hoping, to come back from the road trip, a game over 500. So,
Right.
I mean, they far exceeded my expectations to start the year, and it's nice to see, the other teams, the affiliate teams in Ohio and Columbus, Akron, and LA County getting off to good starts and some really good pitching performances throughout the organization to start the season. And of course, we're covering the captains and the Rubber Ducks this year, so make sure you follow our coverage at Believe Land Media. Anything else to add?
No, I think that's about it. Thank you all for joining us. Just wanted to hop on. Opening day is always like a holiday, so we wanted to kind of combine that with the excitement of the solar eclipse, with home opener, and yeah, just a great start to the season. Like Kevin mentioned, we are going to be covering the Rubber Ducks and Lake County Captains this season, so uh, seeing what lies ahead for Guardians baseball. Excited to be a part of that coverage, and our high school coverage is kicking into gear. I know tomorrow I'm covering a softball game. I think Kevin's got a few things going on this week. So yeah, we're definitely excited for the Guardians, but also the other sports that we cover here at Believe Land Media.
Yeah, got a lot of good things going on, and Wednesday I'll be at the Ravenna High School for the Portage County boys and girls basketball all-star game. So, thanks to Tom Nader and Portage Sports for putting that on. Great event.
Definitely.
But other than that, wrestling fans, stay tuned. 9 p.m. The Pile Driver podcast will be live, so make sure you check them out. And other than that, we will talk to you next time.
Go Cards.